Hi friends, I'm Cheryl. Welcome to the Cash Cruncher channel. Today we are prepping potatoes. I have two bowls here, each with 2.5 pounds of potatoes. And on this bowl, we are going to prep these for the freezer for hash browns. And in this bowl, we're going to prep these for storage in the pantry as instant potatoes. Now, these came from a 5-pound bag from my local grocery store. It was $3.99. This is actually cheaper than just buying loose russet potatoes. And it's also a lot cheaper than buying bags of frozen potatoes for hash browns at the store and boxes of instant potatoes at the store. At the end of the video, I am going to show you the breakdown of the costs and how much it saved me. It was almost $20. That's how much this one 5-pound bag saved me. And the food that we prepare here will last for months in the freezer and the pantry. So why potatoes? They're cheap, they're versatile, you can find them everywhere, and they're available year-round. And they're nutritious. They're very easy to prep, and we're going to show you how to do that today. Okay, first up, we are going to prep these potatoes for the freezer. So step one is to peel them. You'll want to peel all of your potatoes. Then we are going to chop them. My handy little chopper here. You can either chop or you can grate. I have a grater attachment to my chopper here. Or use the little cubes. You probably can't see that, but it's little cubes. It's going to make beautiful little squares of potatoes, which we will plunge into water. This little guy has a basket in it, so I'm going to fill this with water real quick. So the water keeps the potatoes from browning, and it also allows them to release some of their starch, which produces delicious and crispy hash browns, which is our goal today. So once they are chopped or grated and set in water, they'll want to set in the water for about 10 minutes. And once that's done, then I'll meet you back here, and we're going to blanch them and get them ready for the freezer. Okay. Well, after about 2 minutes of peeling, I am going to transfer these beautiful peeled potatoes back into their original bowl because I like to work right to left. Right to left. Okay, now one thing I am going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut these in half. So, grab my little cutting board here. My knife. All right. Now the reason I have to cut them in half is because they have to fit in here. So we're going to try half first and see how that works. Okay, here we go. Just like that. So what I end up with, oh, that wasn't what I expected. I got little French fries. Okay, well, hey, you know what? It works. It works. I don't know if you saw that or not. Look at a little French fry. Huh. Okay. They will fry up just fine. Don't have any problem with it looking like French fry. Okay. Boom. I love this chopper. Use this thing for everything. All right, now here is the beautiful part. I can pull this little basket out because it's got little waters in there to keep my beautiful potatoes from browning, but it does fill up. So I'm going to empty it here, and we will continue this process, and I will see you on the other side in just a couple minutes. Okay, so we have our last little bit of our chopped potatoes. Now they need to soak for about 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to let's get them covered in the water here. I am going to turn my pot on, let that come to temperature, and then we will go over blanching. That's the last step. Let them blanch, let them cool, bag them up, and put them in the freezer. So I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Welcome back. I have here some hot water here. It is at exactly 200 degrees, which I think is fine. It doesn't have to be boiling. It has to be hot. 200 is my threshold. I have rinsed our beautiful chopped potatoes, and I'm going to blanch these potatoes to prepare them for freezing. Now what that means is we are going to submerge these raw chopped potatoes into the hot water for about 2 minutes. It's not an exact science, at least 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. I wouldn't go too far. You don't want them to cook all the way through. You just want to blanch them and then just sort of like partially cook them so that they don't brown in the freezer, they maintain their freshness, and they maintain their crisp. So instead of just plopping the potatoes into the pot, I'm going to use this guy. This is my fryer basket for scooping out fried chicken and french fries, whatever. So this will prevent it from the hot water from splattering back up onto my hand. So I am just going to set those in there. I'll probably do 2 batches here. Okay, I think we're good there. You know what? I can probably get them all in there. Let's see how that looks. Oh, I think we can get them all in there. All right, we're going for gold here. Get them all in there. Okay. Yeah, so there's plenty of room for them to move around. Let's see if I can get a shot of the pot here. Okay. Plenty of room for them to move around in there. Now that water is 200 degrees, so you want to be very careful. Okay. We don't need this. I think this is the bowl that the blanched potatoes are going to go back into. So I'm going to give this a quick rinse. So it's worth noting while we're waiting on these, and actually let me look at the clock. Okay. It's worth noting that the water that I soaked the potatoes in this bowl is not the water that I'm blanching them in. That water, the soaking water, is very starch heavy. I dumped that water out, rinsed the potatoes through the colander to clean off that starchy water. So what we are blanching the potatoes in right now is clean fresh water that we've gotten to temperature at 200 degrees. Okay. I'm just going to give them a little stir here. Make sure everybody is fully submerged. Just watching the clock. So we want to do this for 2 minutes. Now I use this handy dandy little thing. This is an instant temperature reader, instant thermometer. And it will tell me exactly. It takes 5 seconds. Not even. It takes 1 second for it to tell me how hot this water is. Since I don't wait for it to boil, I want it to at least get to 200 degrees. So I always keep this guy around. It did cool off a little bit when I put the potatoes in there because they were room temperature. So this is why we want to give it a couple of minutes to come up to temperature, get a good blanch on those potatoes, and then they're going to be ready for the freezer. The next step after blanching, of course, is to let them cool completely. You do not want steaming potatoes in your freezer. That is a recipe for a disaster. You want them to cool completely. And once they are blanched, they won't discolor. They won't go brown, right? So you can let them sit in your container while you let them cool. If you've got a lot, the container's kind of full, give them a little shake here and again until they are ready to go. And if as long as there's no more steam, you could touch it with your hand and it's not warm, it's room temperature, they're ready to go. They're ready to go into the freezer bag and into the freezer. Now, once they're in the freezer, they will last up to 6 months. You know, if you let them freeze flat, they will be able to, you can break them up with your hands so that it's not one big block of potatoes. So you don't have to pull out the whole bag from the freezer when you're ready to make hash browns. You just pull out the serving that you need. Maybe you just want to do a handful, or maybe you want to do the whole bag. That's fine. But if you let them lay flat, because they are individual pieces, you let them lay flat. Once they're cool, they have to be cool. If they're steaming, this won't work. You're going to get a big block of potato because all that moisture is just going to freeze into a block of ice. Once they're cool, let them lay flat, and I'll demonstrate how I do it. What's our time here? Oh, we're good. Yeah, okay. So now I am going to take them out of here. Got some beautiful steam happening there. Let that water drip out. Put Put them in my little container here. Okay. That's hot. Okay. Probably turn the heat off. All right. Okay. There's a couple more in there. All right. Okay. Now that our frozen potatoes are cooling, let me give them a little shake here. There's still a little bit of steam happening. Still hot to the touch. They're not quite ready. While those were cooking, I went ahead and chopped up the other half. I chopped them exactly the same way. These do not have to be soaked. These are going to be our dehydrated instant mashed potatoes that are going to store in our pantry. These do not have to be soaked for 10 minutes. Now, while I was chopping and doing all of that, I did have them in water to keep them from discoloring. But now they're all chopped and they're ready to be cooked. So in order to make our instant mashed potatoes, here's the process. Okay, so once we have them chopped, we're going to put them in the hot water, and I'm using the same pot that we cooked the other ones in. It's still hot, it's boiling at this point, and we're going to let them cook for 5, 6, 7 minutes until they're just tender, cooked through and tender. Then we're going to take them out of the pot, we're going to mash them, and we are going to make mashed potatoes. Now, keep in mind, we do not want to add any oils or butter or milk or anything at this point. They just need to be potatoes. That's it. Not even salt. Don't add anything. That will interrupt or potentially cause your dehydration to fail. So do not add any oils. That includes butter or olive oil or anything like that. Coconut oil, whatever you like to put on your mashed potatoes. Don't do it at this stage. You want to add those things when you're cooking the dehydrated potatoes. When you're rehydrating, cooking them after they've been dehydrated and stored in your pantry. Then you add all of those yummy things to make your mashed potatoes creamy and delicious. But at this stage, what we want to do is we just want to boil them just from raw state. Don't add anything, okay? And once they are tender, we're going to take them out, we're going to mash them, and we are going to lay them flat on dehydrator trays, and we're going to put them in the dehydrator, and I will give you details on what setting to set those on and exactly how to do that process, the most efficient way to do that process. So I am going to drop these in the boiling water, and once they are cooked, we are going to bash them and we're going to put them on the dehydrator trays. So I'll see you back here in just a minute. Welcome back. Okay, so our potatoes, our hash browns are now boiling and they are ready to go. They are soft, tender, fork tender. They're not mushy, but they are fork tender. And we are going to get them out of the hot water. We actually want to cool these off to stop the cooking process. So we are actually going to put them in ice water, which I forgot to do. I am going to do that now after I get them out of the pot. All right, let's get them all out here. Okay. Turn the heat off. I got some ice ready right here. I'll pour some ice over them, and I am going to put some water on it. Okay, so now what we have here is potatoes soaking in ice water. This will stop the cooking process, and oh yeah, we're going to let them sit in there for a couple of minutes until they're nice and cold, or room temperature at least, and the cooking process has stopped completely. Okay. So we'll meet you back here in a couple minutes. Welcome back. Okay, so our potatoes boiled and they got to fork tender. They cooked just a little bit longer than the potatoes that were going in the freezer for our hash browns. These needed to cook all the way through. Not too mushy though, but fork tender is what you're looking for. Fork tender. So take them out of the hot water, and they're in an ice bath. Now they're in a bowl with ice water. This stops the cooking process and stops them from cooking too much. So they are cool to the touch. I'm going to give them just a little more time. They are not quite ready. Okay, I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, now we are ready to prepare our potatoes for storage. These are our freezer potatoes. These are going to be hash browns in the freezer. These are going to be instant mashed potatoes in our pantry. So these have cooled. They are cool, not cool, they are room temperature. They've been sitting here cooling. There's no more steam. They are ready to be placed in our bag, which I have in my Pyrex here. So I am going to just sort of escort them into the bag, just like this. I'm going to use 2 bags so that I am sure to have plenty of room when they're in there laying flat. Like I said, I don't want them to become a big block of ice. So I think we can just do a few more. Okay. And this guy up here, there's one. Got it back here. Again, you want to make sure you label hash browns and the date so you know how long they have been in your freezer. Okay. Good. Hello. Hello. All right. Now, I am seeing a little bit of moisture on the inside. Now, moisture obviously is expected, but there's just a little bit of steam condensing on the inside of the bag. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I am going to let this bag sit open, let it air out a little bit more. Same thing is happening with this one. I am going to let these bags just air out. And now that they have been blanched, the potatoes will not discolor, so you can let them sit out in the open air without being in water, soaking, or having lemon juice or anything on them to prevent the discoloration. That won't happen once they've been blanched. So I'm just going to let them sit there until they're ready. Now these are still sitting in water, so I am going to take my little colander here. We are going to dump out this water. I need that. Okay. Water there. Now we are going to mash these. Let's get this bits in here. Okay. All right. And now we are going to mash. Now, my masher busted. So this is a replacement masher, and it's not quite as strong. So I am going to employ the good old fork. If I can find my big fork, we are going to use that, because this masher is not doing it. And that is because these potatoes are not cooked to mush. They are cooked to just done. So they still have some structure to them. And that's important for the dehydration process. So this is going to take a while. Okay, so I just discovered an exciting new trick that I want to share with you. Okay, so you recall, my masher wasn't quite doing the job. It's a little flimsy. It's not a metal one. I used to have a metal one, and it ended up breaking. So this wasn't really doing the job either. This is my big serving fork. This wasn't doing the job either because the potatoes are not quite, cooked to mush. So I decided to employ my Ninja. This is one of my favorite appliances, and it got the job done. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Okay, let's get this fork back out here. All right, let me show you what it did. All right, so we are looking at beautiful mashed potatoes. Now they are a little sticky because there's no oil, there's no extra water, there's no nothing in here. I didn't put any water. You don't need to do that. This is nice and mushy. It doesn't matter if it's lumpy. If you have an aversion to lumpy mashed potatoes, which is perfectly fine. If that's your deal, that's perfectly fine. They will dehydrate in the exact same state that they are before they're dehydrated. So if they're lumpy going into the dehydrator, they're going to be lumpy coming out. You won't notice that, of course, they'll be dry, but once you reconstitute them, those lumps will still be there. And that's okay. My family doesn't mind lumpy mashed potatoes. But if your family does have an aversion of that, then it's possible that you could use an immersion blender to remove any remaining lumps or anything and make it nice and creamy and smooth. Again, don't add any butter, though. Don't add any butter or oil to facilitate that process of making them as smooth as possible. If you really don't want lumpy mashed potatoes, and it might be a better idea to go ahead and dehydrate them with the lumps, and then when you rehydrate, when you cook them into mashed potatoes, use the immersion blender then. Because then you can add the oils and the butters, and that will facilitate that creaminess. That's probably a better idea than trying to do it now, because they're going to be sticky and mushy now at this stage, because there's no oil or anything in there. They're delicious, of course, but they're unseasoned, and they're essentially just flavorless potatoes. Okay, well, this worked. I just wanted to share that little trick with you. This is awesome. Okay, so next I'm going to get them out of here, and we're going to put them on my dehydrator trays here, which I have lined with parchment paper, and we're going to sit them in the dehydrator, and I'll give you the details on what temperature and for how long. Okay, now we are ready to put the mashed potatoes on our dehydrator trays. I have lined these with just a simple parchment, and I'm going to use my little tool here to scoop and spread. Now you want this to be spread to a very thin layer. You don't want it too thick, and you want it to be even. If they're not even, they will dehydrate at different rates. So in other words, if you've gone through your dehydration time and some of your trays here have a thick spread on them, they may not be completely dry. And that could potentially, I've got a big clump right here, I'm going to take this out. That could potentially cause your batch to spoil. We do not want that. So you want to layer these out in an even fashion here, just like icing a cake. Got one done. So if you can see that or not, you can see it's very thin layer of potatoes on there. Okay, so I am going to continue until all of my mashed potatoes are done. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put these in the dehydrator. I'll be right back. Next. Okay, the last two trays are going in the dehydrator. Okay, so here we go. We have, how many trays did we do? 3, 4, 5, 6 trays full of beautiful mashed potatoes. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we are going to set this the button. So we want 8 hours, 8 hours at 135. Okay, there we go. There she goes. Okay, now that we have our hash browns dehydrating in the dehydrator, now we can finish up with our instant potatoes are in the dehydrator, dehydrating. Our hash browns are still waiting here. They are nice and cool. That steam has gone away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them exactly in one layer, lay them flat. Okay, we are going to seal this like this. Okay. Single layer. All right. Now what that does is it allows it to freeze as individual pieces. So when I am ready to make hash browns, I don't have a frozen block of potatoes. I instead have individual pieces, and I can do as many as I want. I can hook up as many as I want to do at a time. So now I'll show you a trick. I had one dehydrator tray left over from making the instant potatoes. Surprisingly, the dehydrator tray is exactly the same size as my gallon bags. So I use that to help these lay flat. And I'm just going to top them on top of each other just like that. Now I have a nice strong support for my bags so they all lay flat. I don't know about you. If you freeze in the freezer, oftentimes it will deform into a weird shape. And it's, of course, frozen in that shape, which is frustrating. But sometimes it won't lay flat then. It doesn't stack well. It's a little frustrating. And if you have limited freezer space, that can be a challenge. So these dehydrator trays are absolutely perfect for keeping everything flat until it's frozen. Once it's frozen, then you can, stack them up, vertical, horizontal, however you want, like a bookcase. That's how my freezer looks. They're in there like books. So, all right, this is going in the freezer. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the video and learn how to prep a bag of potatoes to provide you with months of fresh food from your freezer and from your pantry. Now, I wanted to make a note about the cost savings of buying in bulk, and in my case, I bought the 5-pound bag instead of the loose potatoes. It was a better deal. The loose potatoes were more per pound, whereas for the 5-pound bag, it was $3.99 for the 5-pound bag, and it would have been a lot more than that if I had bought 5 pounds of just the loose russets. So to compare that though to the instant mashed potatoes that, like the box of the Idahoan or whatever brand you use, was $3.59 at my local grocery store, which comes out to about 26 cents per ounce. Okay, it's 13 ounces, whatever. And the shredded hash browns at my local grocery store, the bag of frozen shredded hash browns, was $4.99, and that was the name brand, or Rita, whatever it is, the name brand. And that comes out to 10 cents per ounce because they hold a little bit more. I don't remember the exact weight, but it came out to 10 cents per ounce. Now, my 5-pound bag of potatoes was $3.99. They're 16 ounces in a pound, so it was 80 ounces for $4. This comes to 5 cents per ounce. So that is a huge, huge difference. If I had purchased the store-bought versions of the hash browns and the store-bought versions of the instant potatoes, I would have spent around $20 total. And I ended up spending $4 and then made those things myself. It's a huge savings. So if you are pinching pennies and you are trying to stretch that grocery dollar, this is how you do it. You make these things at home. I hope that you learned something about preparing potatoes for the freezer and for the pantry. I wanted to mention that I do have a free downloadable pantry restock guide that is brand new. There's a link to it in the description. It outlines a lot of information about how to stock your pantry, how to shop smart for the best deals, how to stock up, and how to get in that mindset to stretch that dollar, to save that money. Look for that link in the description, and I welcome any comments or questions that you have. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are released. Thank you for joining. Have a good day.